Some of the most interesting evidence about the dance between the mainstream conservative movement and its unmainstream fringe took place at this year's Conservative Political Action Conference at CPAC, which this year featured the John Birch Society as a co-sponsor. The same John Birch Society that was seen as so extreme and so conspiratorial and so bad for the image of normal conservatives that it was exiled from the conservative movement by conservatives way back in the 1960s. The John Birchers, don't forget, are the folks who essentially thought the entire U.S. government was secretly under communist control. They said that President Eisenhower, for example, was a conscious agent of the Soviet Union while he was president. Think about that for a second. According to the John Birch Society, Ike was being run as a communist agent from Russia while he was president. The communist plot in the imagination of the John Birch Society reached far and wide. Fluoridation of drinking water was supposedly part of the plot. Of course, when the Birch Society got the CPAC gig this year and we reported on their position on water fluoridation and its place in the vast commie-pinko conspiracy, the John Birch Society got really ticked off at me and denied ever having held that position. But then we got all industrious and researchy and found ourselves some primary source material, an official John Birch Society bulletin from 1960 in which strategies are outlined for stopping the communists in their evil plot to add fluoride to drinking water. Then, astonishingly, when I met some really nice John Birch Society folks at CPAC this year, after the whole fluoridation fight, you want to know what they wanted to talk to me about? They wanted to talk to me about how evil fluoride is. They brought it up.
I'm remembering the show you did, and you went after us on the subject of fluoridation. Right? The reason we oppose fluoridation is that it's mass medication. Right after we opposed it, a professor from Tufts University, you know where that is, he came out and he said, I think the population's growing so high, so fast, that we got to put birth control substances in the water supply, and we can use as a precedent putting fluoridation in the water.
A lot of people say crazy. It's true.
Well, all right, now, are we wrong to be opposed to mass fluoridation?
You know what I always wondered? What did you guys think about putting iodine in salt? Seeing the John Birch Society back in the heart of the conservative movement has been sort of a trip. I mean, once they got over the impulse to try to pretend that they are not now and never were crazy about stuff like fluoride, they then got right back into the business of being super paranoid, highly imaginative conspiracy theorists about stuff like fluoride. These guys really believe if we're going to get serious about stopping communist mind control plots, we must oppose the dreaded Bolshevik fluoride in the water. Here's the most amazing thing, though. The John Birch Society now, in that view, has a very highly placed champion. The Republican candidate for Senate in Nevada, Sharron Angle, fighter against fluoride. Really? In 1999, the Nevada State Assembly passed a bill requiring the fluoridation of water in 2 Nevada counties. Then Assemblywoman Sharron Angle tried to block fluoridation in one of those counties. According to an account in the Las Vegas Review-Journal, quote, Angle said she simply does not like fluoride. You know what else Sharron Angle does not like? Alcohol. In a 2006 interview, Sharron Angle said she was against booze being legal. Quote, I would tell you that I have the same feelings about legalizing marijuana, not medical marijuana, but just legalizing marijuana. I feel the same about legalizing alcohol. The effect on society is so great that I'm just not a real proponent of legalizing any drug or encouraging any drug abuse. Sharron Angle was forced to clarify her position last month. She now says she no longer wants to outlaw alcohol. Not like when she was all crazy about that stuff back in her youth 4 years ago. But it's not just making beer illegal and stopping the evil plot to put fluoride in the drinking water. Here's Sharron Angle's take, for example, on the United States' role in the United Nations. Quote, the UN continually threatens U.S. sovereignty with endless rhetoric and treaties, and it has now become the umpire on fraudulent science such as global warming. The United States needs to withdraw from the United Nations and work solely with America's willing allies. Her foreign policy position here is that we should ditch the UN and their crazy ideas about global warming and treaties. As for energy policy, check out Sharron Angle's response to the BP oil disaster.
We have oil reserves and petroleum reserves that we should tap into, and that's a policy that we really need to look at as a nation. How do we deregulate enough to invite our industries to come back into the United States and quit outsourcing their business?
When you look at the BP oil disaster and the fact that they were approved to drill there even though they had no idea how to clean anything up there, do you think, oh, if we could only figure out how to deregulate that industry more? Gotta get the boot of the man off the neck of the oil industry so they can be more free to do their oil stuff. That brings us to the environment and the environmental angle of Sharron Angle. She wants to abolish the EPA. She also wants to abolish the Department of Energy. She wants to abolish the Department of Education. She also wants to abolish the IRS tax code. Also, she wants to eliminate Social Security, and she would like to eliminate Medicare. Sharron Angle has also gone on record as supporting the Oath Keepers. The Oath Keepers are a conspiratorial group that asks law enforcement officers and soldiers to pledge not to enforce certain directives. They have a list of 10 orders they say they will refuse to obey. It includes things that are imminently, going to happen. Stuff like blockading American cities, thus turning them into giant concentration camps. Just to be thorough, I guess, the Oath Keepers also make a point to say that they will refuse to force American citizens into any form of detention camps. Because, that's coming. Also, the fluoride. The fluoride is coming, too. We must fight the plans we fantasize about to put Americans in concentration camps, and we must fight the fluoride that precedes that kind of thing. America meets Sharron Angle, one of the newest members of the Republican class of 2010 Senate candidates. I wonder if she'll do an interview with me.